I doubled my prices and I was fully expecting the client to ghost me. I thought I'd never hear from them again when I presented what in my mind was crazy pricing for my social media management services. But instead, they said yes instantly. This one decision changed how I price my services forever. And in this episode, I'm breaking down exactly what happened, what it taught me, and what the signs are that you need to increase your prices as well.
Welcome to the Dishing Up Digital podcast, where the dress code is sweatpants and the business model is freedom first.
Before I jump into my story time and talk about the lessons learned and how to increase your own prices, we need to talk about your fears, and specifically what I call the pricing fear loop. We need to pull ourselves out of this loop and start reframing our mindset and feeling more empowered to increase our prices, because just like your local hair salon, nail salons, movie theaters, every single business, in order to survive, needs to continuously increase their prices over time. And I can guarantee probably 90% of you watching this video are undercharging in the first place, so we've got some catching up to do. The trap I see a lot of newbies fall into is the fear around increasing your prices. The biggest one being, what if my client says no, and then you end up losing the client? There's also fears like, oh my gosh, are they going to think I'm being greedy asking for a price increase? What if they think this is ridiculous? What if I end up pricing myself out of the market? What if this person can't afford me, they end a contract, and then I can't find any more work? We have created this correlation in our mind between raising our prices and losing clients, and that is understandably scary. Part one of tackling this mindset belief is obviously recognizing that price increases are in fact normal, coming back to what I just said around every business has to increase their prices over time. And what I really want to get across in today's episode is how there's a lot of positive things that can come from increasing your prices. And this is the one particular mindset shift that changed everything for me. When I was chatting to a business friend of mine a couple of years ago, I very proudly said to her that I had a 100% conversion rate. And what that meant was any business that got on a discovery call with me, any student, whether it was for my social media management services, my courses, my coaching, anyone that I did a discovery call with would end up saying yes to working with me. And I was really proud of having this 100% conversion rate until this fellow business owner kind of pointed out, Ellen, that's not normal. You shouldn't be hearing yes all the time. In fact, if you are hearing yes all the time, this is the biggest indicator that you need to raise your price. You are too good of a deal right now. So while you are sitting here so scared of someone saying no to your price increase, the reality is it's actually a necessary part of business, and it's actually a good thing that not everybody is saying yes to you. You should not be at the price point that everybody can afford your services. Here's what raising your prices actually signals to your client. Number one, there is a confidence in what you are offering. You believe in your value. Number two, there is a growth in your skill set or the services that you offer. Maybe you've been studying, you've been taking online courses, maybe you've improved your video editing, and you should be charged more the more that you are learning and growing and developing your skills, just like in a corporate job. Number three, there could also be an increased demand for your services. This is my favorite line to use in a price increase email. If I'm having to turn away clients that would be fantastic to work with or that I'd love to work with, and I'm turning them away because I'm at capacity, that means the current clients that I do have, they need to be presented with a price increase because my time is suddenly becoming more valuable and I've got a wait list of other people who would like to use my services. Raising your prices can also be a way to figure out what of, your current client roster are actually in it for the long haul. Who is the good fit? Who sees your value? I think there's something about presenting a price increase that really does show who the right clients are for you, and it shows sometimes people's true colors, the way that they respond to a price increase. For example, I've had clients in the past who have sent me a message like, OMG, go you, Ellen, so proud of you, like lock me in for the new contract. Versus I've had clients where, in the early days, I would do something like a $50 price increase and I would get this long lecture in an email. And for me, that just became a red flag. I was like, cool, okay, this client doesn't understand my value. They don't respect my skills. And I am actively going to look for someone to replace them. Like if a client doesn't see my value, and bear in mind, like back in the day, I was charging like $350. So I'd be raising my price from $350 to $400. I was not charging a lot as a social media manager. And to have somebody react that intensely and that harshly to me just being like, hey, I'd like to be charged $50 a month more, it was a massive red flag for me. And as it went on with that particular client, they did show a lot of more issues with boundaries and not respecting my time and not respecting my work. And eventually I found a better client to move on and replace them with. So really the important thing here is we are reframing, right? Sometimes sometimes a client responding negatively to your price increase can be a good thing. And that is how we get out of that fear loop. And we realize that this is a necessary part of business and it's a good thing and it's okay if someone says no to you. If we step back a little bit and do some math for a moment, and now bear with me, I'm not the best at math. This is why I'm a content girly and I didn't go into engineering like my father. But if we were to do something drastic, like double our prices, and we were to look and say we had 6 clients that we were working with, maybe we're only charging them $800 a month, and we want to double and go up to somewhere around the $1,500, the $1,600 a month mark. Now, we could have 3 of those clients say no, and 3 of those clients say yes, and we would still be making the same amount of money each month. Because we have doubled our prices, we can actually half our client load and still be at the same income level. And I'll bet you're going to have a lot more free time to go out and look for new clients, or to maybe launch a new revenue stream in your business, create a digital product, a course, or maybe start a podcast like this. Wherever your passions lie, you're going to have that capacity. So although it feels so scary, if you take the emotions out of it a little bit, take a step back and look at the numbers, you're like, okay, I could present this price increase, and maybe worst case scenario, 4 out of my 6 clients say no, but then 2 say yes. And then actually I'm only a couple of $100 short from what I was making, but I'm going to have a hell of a lot more time on my hands. I am really speaking to the service providers, the coaches, the social media managers, the creators who are really undercharging at the moment, who are just scraping by, and they're probably overwhelmed with the amount of clients that they're working with, and they're feeling pulled in a whole bunch of different directions, and they're not hitting their revenue goals. This is something, although it sounds drastic, can be a really good thing for your business. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story time of when I did double my prices. Now, a little bit of a disclosure for the story. I often present price increases to any new incoming clients. It's one of my favorite ways that I get around, doing price increases, because obviously when you lock someone into a contract, there's a certain period of time where you've got a set rate. I also find if you start increasing the prices on a client every 3 months, they're probably going to get a bit annoyed. So usually with existing clients, I'll do one big annual price increase, or, an annual 10%, 15% increase, depending on the client, depending on the situation, the dynamics of the deliverables, and all of those various factors. But I honestly see the best opportunity for new incoming clients to increase my prices. That is what I found easiest for someone like me that is very, very limited in terms of my money mindset. Is that the right way to frame it? I've recorded a podcast episode where I talked more about money and my fears around money. So I'll link that down below in the show notes if you want to listen to it. It's called Your Inner Broke Girl is Holding You Back. But I am someone who is very risk adverse, let's say that, when it comes to my finances and my business. So sometimes, going to all my existing clients and doubling my prices, I just couldn't do it, even though I knew the positives of it. And it is something that, I do encourage some people to do when it's the right time in their business. But for me, I couldn't do it. And I think some of you will relate to that. So I would increase the prices to any incoming clients. So existing clients, they might be on a $1,500 a month package. New clients that would inquire, I would quote them $2,000 or $2,500. And that was how I did my price increases. Now, this was 3 years ago now, and I already had 2 contractors working with me. And I think I had around 7 to 8 monthly clients that I was doing full social media management for. That excluded any strategy clients, any consulting or coaching packages. So with those 8 full social media management clients, my specialty was Instagram management, and I had my 2 contractors, but I was really at capacity at that point. It was a lot of work for me. And I had this client come along who I really liked her vibe and her vision. She was starting a new business. She'd always worked in corporate consultancy, and she was starting her own range of online courses. At that time, I loved working with other coaches and creators. That was one of my specialties in terms of my clientele for social media management. So she came along, she was the perfect fit, and loved what she was dreaming up for her business and really wanted to be part of it. But I really felt like I was at capacity. So that was when I was like, you know what? I'm going to quote her double what I usually would for this package. And it's going to be way too much money. And she's going to say no. And then, and it was a little bit of a cheeky way for me to, instead of just, being bold enough to say no, I was like, I'm just going to price you out and then you're not going to be able to afford me and then that'll be fine. And of course, funnily enough, funny story, they said yes. So I was so convinced that the price that I had quoted was so high that no one would ever say yes to it. And this is just a lesson in itself on how our personal money beliefs need to come out of our business. And we can't push them onto our clients because so often what seems like a ridiculous price to us could be a bargain, could be a steal, an absolute steal to some other business owners. That was like a huge takeaway for me and really made me actually go back and then readjust the prices of all my other packages because it really opened my eyes up to my value. Like this stranger who had only met for a discovery call was actually seeing my work as more valuable than myself. And this is so common with service providers and creators. We're so hard on ourselves. We get stuck in the loop of undercharging because we can't see it. But someone from the outside who's coming in with less emotions and less attachment to, your self-worth, they're just looking at the work itself, they see the value. I also think it's really a lesson in getting outside your own network and your own business circles because sometimes we surround ourselves unintentionally with other businesses that are perhaps operating at our same income levels or perhaps facing the same financial struggles. And that's a good thing. We love having our networks, our communities, the memberships we're in. We love being in those places because of the relatability, because of the support we can get from other business owners who are facing the same challenges as us. But on the flip side, sometimes that doesn't make you realize how much more opportunity is out there. And how this particular client came to me was through a referral. So I was in a mastermind with I believe it was their copywriter. So that she'd hired a copywriter and then this copywriter and I were in the same mastermind and she was basically like, oh, hey, I know this chick, Ellen, you should come and work with her if you need a social media manager. So that was how I kind of joined working with that client and joined that group. It was through essentially a referral within a mastermind group I was in. But it was definitely like a different niche and industry, and obviously still in the coaching space, but it was more in the finance world. She was coming from like a corporate finance background. And it was really interesting because she simply had more funds to invest in the setup of her business. And I was, typically hanging out in a world of fellow bootstrappers like myself, fellow girlies who had started their business with very little investment, who had started from, their kitchen table or the garage where they set up an office. Instead, this was someone who was coming in with like 20 years corporate experience and a good nest egg of investment to spend on her business. So sometimes it really is a matter of just opening your eyes up and really realizing that sometimes we live in our own small little world and we don't realize there's other opportunities out there. There's other budgets out there that are higher than ours. And we need to work on broadening our network to find those clients. And as you guys know, regular listeners of the podcast will know I'm a big fan of cold pitching, warm pitching, networking, marketing yourself on socials. I really think it's a combination of all these things. But anyway, I'm sidetracking a little bit into how to book clients and how to book other high ticket clients when I really want to focus on this conversation of increasing your prices. So that is one strategy. That is one option where you do annual price increases and you are increasing the prices with any new inquiry. If you are sitting here wondering if now is the right time to increase your prices, I want you to look at that conversion rate. Are you having every single person say yes to you? That is the first number one sign. The second thing you want to be looking at is what I mentioned. Are you fully booked? Do you have a wait list? Like, is your time becoming more valuable now that your skills are increasing? Number three is an interesting one. If you are finding yourself resenting your workload or perhaps resenting your client, this is another sign that you need to increase your prices. I had this situation. There's one particular client that always stands out to me when I talk about this, but I had a client that I was really close to ending the contract with because I felt like there were too many edits for content. I was constantly having to come back and redo stuff. And in my mind at the time, she just had too much feedback. But actually, when I zoom out and look at the experience now, I'm like, hey, that client was really cool because we could really collaborate on the content and the content actually came out really cool. But at the time, in the moment, happen. I was just so frustrated with the client, and there was a lot of simmering resentment. And I thought it was because the way that we did business clashed, when in reality, it was just the fact that I was undercharging. And I went to this client with a price increase with the idea of it's okay if they say no, because I'm not enjoying this experience at the moment. My workload is too much, and I'm feeling the resentment. And I went in there being like, she may say no, and that's okay. And she ended up saying yes. And it changed everything, the dynamic with that client. As soon as I was getting paid what I felt was like more my worth, and I felt like I was getting a good chunk of income from them each month, I didn't mind collaborating more on the content. I didn't mind making a couple more revisions because I was getting paid more. Like in my mind, I was getting paid for that time, and it just changed everything. And I think I worked for that client for about another year after that. Like they were quite a long-term client. And it's funny, like I almost gave up on them. And if you have a client that you want to give up on, I encourage you to look at this as an option instead. See if you can increase the price. Number one, it's going to tell you a lot about the client. If they say yes, how they say yes, or if they say no, how they say no. But number two, it also could actually be the solution to the resentment and the burnout that you might be feeling. So that is going to be it for today's episode on pricing. I know this is such a big, juicy topic, and I know it can stress out a lot of my fellow entrepreneurs. And hopefully this has given you some confidence when it next comes to increasing your prices. If you're new around here, make sure you're subscribed to the Dishing Up Digital podcast, whether you listen on Apple, Spotify, or we upload visuals on YouTube. Hello, if you're watching on YouTube. I hope you're enjoying my nice cozy setup in my armchair. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next episode.